this particular segment, this subject we're going to talk about today, which I call profiling, is all about understanding the different personality styles, understanding how to work with different personality styles, understanding your own personality style, and then talking about versatility, which is by far, in my opinion, one of the most important skills to develop as a salesperson, a leader, and someone who wishes to grow their business. Versatility is the opposite of me saying, this is who I am. If you like me, good. If you don't like me, too bad. That's exactly the opposite of versatility. Being versatile, meaning that you are flexible. It means that you are willing to change yourself to fit the prospect, to fit the customer, to be more welcoming, to make the other person feel more comfortable, which then builds rapport, etc. So profiling is all about understanding the different personality styles. It is an advanced technique. It takes years to master, years to figure out. But I can tell you, after many years, I've probably been using this between, agents joining, recruiting, working with customers and clients and doing all that stuff. If I accumulated all this knowledge starting, say, like 2003, when I really started, I hired a full-time assistant and I started building my team in a different way and did a lot of different things with the DISC test. I never hired anyone without giving them the test because I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Now, some people ask me, hey, Ran, is this DISC test so accurate that you're giving it the importance that, that you're giving it? I said, yes, because every single person that I have worked with who took the test showed me that it's correct. It's right on the dot. And unless the person taking the exam is not being honest, he's answering the questions given, not the questions, but he's choosing the wrong choices on the test that don't fit the personality, but they fit what this person thinks that he wants to be or what is needed for the job. And that's really the biggest challenge with giving people personality tests, because if someone is taking a personality test and they're trying to get a certain profile to fit a certain position within a company, then they might answer in a way that makes it look like, something that they're really not. Let's close the loop. So when I am hiring people and giving them the DISC test and they, I see the results, it's easier for me to figure out what's going on. And by the way, if they did not take the exam with integrity, if they did not take the exam with, another agenda in mind, then in most cases, it's on the dot, 99%. Did I ever see that the test did not really give me the right results? Yes, when there is a combination of profiles. So let's begin, and then I'll explain exactly what I mean by combination of profiles, the 4 DISC profiles. So, we're using the DISC, but there's a lot of different tests out there that you can use that are all more or less the similar tests. You're looking at the driver, expressive, amiable, analytical. Driver is also known as the dominant. The expressive is also known as the influencer, which is really stands for the I in DISC. And then the amiable is steady, and analytical is compliance. Compliance or conscientiousness, these are the 2 words they're using on the DISC. That's what I want you guys to do. I want you to pay attention, understand each style by itself, understand your style, and then really get to the details of how to figure out someone else's style so that when you meet with people, you can pay attention to it and then you know how to deliver your message. Your message meaning your, for example, listing presentation. A listing presentation is a message. Starts at A and ends at Z. You're delivering your listing presentation. Okay, we teach a 5-minute presentation and 20 to 25-minute presentation. The 5-minute presentation is with your past client, center of influence, someone who's ready to list with you without asking questions, who agreed on price. So it's a 5-minute presentation, very easy to deliver. 25 minutes is also easy to deliver. They're short, and we'll talk about those in the listing presentation. But what you need to understand is you have one message delivered to different styles. So you're taking the presentation and then you're matching it to different personality styles, meaning you're delivering the message in a different way. For example, if I'm delivering a message to someone who is more amiable, I'm going to talk more about how do you feel about this. I'm going to quiet my voice. I'm not going to drive like crazy and go, super expressive. I'm going to, calm myself down, be a little bit more relaxed when I do that, ask questions about how they feel, try to pay attention to their body language, and deliver a little bit more of a different style of presentation. When I am dealing with a driver, I have to be the driver. When I'm dealing with an expressive, I have to be an expressive. So you have to match the other side and then work with that. So for example, if in a driver's presentation, I'm driving the presentation all the way, I'm going to let them make the decision. They're the drivers. And I'm going to ask questions like bottom line kind of questions and let's make a decision kind of questions. I'm not going to ask them, how do you feel about something? Because they don't care about that. A driver doesn't care about how it feels. They care about the bottom line, how fast they can get it, and what's the bottom line here. Like, how much am I getting? What's your percentage? Stuff like that. An amiable wants to know the process. They want to know more things about how it's going to happen and what does it mean, and more deeper, more philosophical, if I may say, questions and more about how do you feel about this and, how does it make you feel, stuff like that. I'm not going to do that with a driver. So what's important for you to understand right now, I'm just going to very lightly touch each one of those profiles. You can make some notes, and then you can get into that by, number one, Google it and go deep. Number two, watch my video on my YouTube channel that talks about the profiles. And number three, participate in our boot camps, specifically the listing presentation boot camp. That's what versatility is all about. So let's begin. So the driver, who is also the dominant profile, they're low on emotion. They're not going to show you how they feel because feelings in business don't matter to drivers. They're quick to decide. They need and they want to make decisions quickly because they want to get it over with. A driver always think about, how can I get this thing done? Let's move next. Like, what's next? Okay, finish this one. Okay, next. That's a driver. If you're delivering a message to a driver and you are amiable, you got to be very, very careful that you don't come across as weak personality. Drivers don't like that. So you got to watch out. You got to, it's a little bit more complicated. I think it's more difficult for an amiable to deliver to a driver than to a driver to slow down and deliver to an amiable. Drivers are forceful. They're forceful in how they speak, in, what they're trying to achieve, how they try to achieve stuff. Restless, competitive, super competitive, quick to react, determined, direct, demanding, decisive, controlling, on purpose, and initiate. These are the things that really, distinguish the driver from the other personality styles. When they speak, you can hear and sense determination. They say things very direct. They don't beat around the bushes. They just go direct and tell you how things are. Because they like bottom lines, they like facts, they like, let's get this thing over with and move next. They don't see why should they slow down and talk about feelings and how does it feel. They just don't get it. So you don't want to talk about that with the driver. And then they need to make the decision. So for me, as a driver delivering to another driver, sometimes, of course, you can clash heads. And so you need to let them dominate, the conversation by asking the right questions and then moving aside kind of and watching how things are done. But you can just drive them right through the bottom line and go straight to the end. If I deliver a listing presentation to a driver, it's probably going to take me about 10 to 15 minutes to finish up. If I deliver the same presentation to an amiable, 45 minutes to an hour, because I got to slow down. I got to talk about feelings. I have to pay attention. I need to ask the right questions. I need to really, because it's not me. It's not how I behave. So I have to really pay attention to what's going on and pay attention to the signs. A driver tends to be direct and decisive. Sometimes they're described as dominant, aggressive, like they'll come across aggressive. They would prefer to lead than to follow. They tend towards leadership and management positions. So if you talk to someone and they have, a CEO or CFO, these kind of positions will probably call for that driver personality style. They tend to have high self-confidence and they like taking risks. They take risks, no problem. And they're also self-starters, meaning they're entrepreneurs. So you can ask the seller, what do you do for a living? And based on the answer, you could start figuring things out. And then how they deliver what they say. So if you're asking open-end questions, let them speak. You can start seeing body language, tone of voice, speed, how fast they talk and what they say and how they, what they're focused on when they talk. You can sense very quickly that it's a driver. All right, let's talk about what motivates a driver. If you understand what motivates a driver, you can then motivate the driver to sign the contract. Okay, they like challenges. They like setting and achieving goals. So you can talk about that. Hey, my goal is to get your home sold in 30 days. They like to see tangible results. So if you do say, I want to sell your home in 30 days, you need to get some results. Receiving verbal recognition, rewards from other people. They enjoy power and authority, taking risk and making decisions, freedom from routine and mundane tasks, changing environments in which to work and play. So they can get bored very quickly. So if your presentation is like more analytical, like a typical analytical is going to come into a presentation speaking fairly slowly and giving all the details, and they'll get like super deep in details, and the driver just want the bottom line. Dude, I don't need the 10 points. Give me the bottom line point and let's move on next. So you got to be careful. Now, let's move on to the expressive, which is the influencer. Expressive is similar to the driver in certain ways. They're extrovert. By the way, drivers are also extrovert. Quick to decide, similar to the driver. High on emotion is the exact opposite of a driver. A driver is low on emotion, right here. So the driver is not using any emotions to deliver their message, and the influencer is all about emotions, up and up, moving their body, moving their hands, talking a lot. You ask an open-end questions, they never finish to talk. A 15-minute presentation can take you an hour and a half. So, and you will pay attention, just let them talk, let them do their thing, But then if they are an influencer, they are looking for high emotions. And if you're like down with your style, if you're coming in like the exact opposite of an influencer, by the way, is the analytical. If you're analytical and you're going in there and your eye on the test is very low, you need to be very careful with an influencer, because in 2 seconds you will bore them to death and they don't like you like right off the bat. They will judge you very quickly and you can lose the presentation in 2 seconds. Okay. Expressives are charming, talkative, optimistic, people-oriented, enthusiastic. You see them move a lot with their body. They're always up and up, always delivering a message with a lot of enthusiasm. Influential, naturally, impulsive. They make decisions quickly, emotional, and sensitive. So you got to be careful if you're a driver talking to someone with no, if you don't have any emotions. For example, drivers and analyticals, very low on emotion. Be careful when you speak with an influencer, which is the expressive, and be careful when you speak with an amiable, which is the steady, because these two are working with a lot of emotions. The expressive influencer is actually not afraid to be center of attention. They will seek it out to be the center of attention, life of the party style, kind of a style. Enthusiastic, optimistic, talkative, persuasive. They get bored very quickly as well. So personality style, they trust others very naturally. They truly enjoys being around other people, functions best when around people and working in teams. So if you're asking questions about what they do for a living, you can probably fairly quickly discover that they're influencers. As far as I'm concerned, an influencer, an expressive person is very easy to detect. They speak plenty and they love talking about themselves. What motivates the expressive? The expressive is motivated by the approval of others, praise of others, flattery, popularity, and acceptance. So they're going to seek it out. They like to be the life of the attention. They want to be the life of the party. They want to be out there. They want to, make sure everybody likes them. That's why they're trying their best to influence everybody, to make everybody like them. They enjoy freedom from too many rules and regs. They just don't like it. And they gravitate towards a friendly and fun environment. They don't like boring, down kind of, places. And if someone goes in like an analytical, who is naturally down with their energy and more serious and, less up and up, friendly and giggly, then the expressive can get bored very quickly and already think about the next person they're interviewing. So you need to be careful. All right, let's go to the amiable. The amiable is the steady. They are also high on emotion, just like the expressive, the influencer, but in a different way. The expressive is high on emotions, becoming an influencer, influencing other people, motivating them, talking with the body, trying to bring the others up in energy. The amiable doesn't like that. They don't like to be the center of attention. They're high on emotion that are more like, like a closed person, someone who doesn't have, 1,000,001 friends. They have very good friends, but not too many. They're timid, slow to make a decision. If you push them like a driver who likes to make decisions fast, or like the expressive who likes to make decisions fast, the amiable is not going to do that. So that's one of the challenges you're going to have when you're delivering a listing presentation, looking for, a quick outcome, a quick decision. The amiable is very patient, fairly predictable, easygoing, calming, group-oriented, steady, stable, sincere, deliberate, modest, listener, and pleasing others. So they come across as very nice people, and they're good listeners, so they can sit down and just listen to someone talking and give them room to speak. So that can actually help you in many cases, unless you're meeting with your opposite. So if you're amiable and you're meeting with a driver, you need to be careful. Steady personality style is also known for being steady, stable, and predictable, even-tempered, friendly, sympathetic with others. They're very generous with loved ones, understanding and listen well. They prefer close personal relationships than being the life of the party. This is really what separates them completely from the influencer. They're very open with loved ones, but they're not quick to make a decision on who they trust. Once they trust you, you're in. But you need to be careful. Like the influencer comes across to amiables as untrustworthy. So you have to really, slow down and let them feel comfortable. It's all about feeling comfortable with amiables. If they feel comfortable with you, they can trust you. If they don't feel comfortable with you, the discussion is over. All right, what's motivating them? The steady personality type is motivated by safety and security. So you need to think about that when you speak with a seller, how to make them feel safe and secured with the process, with you, with who you are, with your company, with what you're trying to achieve. They want to avoid conflict. They don't like confrontations. And they exist in peaceful environments. Confrontation is not it. Like they hate it. They will do whatever it takes to avoid confronting. They like groups that are at harmony. They truly appreciate recognition for their loyalty and dependability. And they don't like too much direct communication. Like saying it the way it is. Like a driver hates to beat around the bushes, so they say things how they are. Amiables take offense very quickly. So when a driver is trying to drive a message how they did drive the message, without considering that the other person is not a driver, they can very easily burn the bridge. So just be careful. All right, the last profile we're going to talk about is the analytical compliance. These people are also low on emotion, like the driver, and slow to decide, like the amiable. Let's see what they're motivated by. The compliance style are accurate, precise, detailed-oriented, and conscientiousness. They think very analytically and systematically. So it's all about the numbers. It's all about what are you going to do to sell my house? Like get in the details. Tell me exactly what's going to happen. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen when we find a buyer? What's going to happen when they do inspection and they don't like something? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Explain the entire process. Obviously, presenting to an analytical is different than presenting to, for example, an expressive or a driver. They make decisions carefully with plenty of research and information to back it up. They also have very high standards for both themselves and others. They will show up extremely organized. Their desk, their home, the way they're dressed, the way they conduct themselves is very, accurate, clean, organized. They're not going to be like all messed up. Like, for example, the opposite of analytical is the expressive personality. The expressive doesn't care about organization. They don't care about the detail. They don't care about being precise and accurate. They just care about how it feels. Oh, I'm going to make them feel good. Don't worry, they're going to love me. Blah, blah, blah. They go in the house. And the analytical sees that and immediately blocks themselves. Like, dude, I don't like this lady. Or I don't like this guy. So you need to be very careful. All right, you're dealing with someone who is making decisions carefully. They need all the details in the world. They have very high standards and they focus on the details. So you really need to bring the details with you. You need to know what you're talking about and don't make any mistakes when it comes to the detail. When you're showing comps, know what you're talking about. Don't show up without knowing each home on your comparable market analysis. If you're being in a CMA with you have to look carefully at the homes you're choosing, and it's preferably better, like way better, if you take the time to actually go out there and look at the other actives that you're showing the seller. If you make a mistake during the presentation with detail, with data, with information, you're not getting the listing. Like one mistake, you're out, you're done. And I know that because I'm also analytical. Let's look at what's motivating them. So the compliance is motivated by information and logic. Like show them the right information. If your presentation makes sense, you can end up with a listing. If your presentation doesn't make sense, if you made mistakes throughout your presentation, if you try to deliver a message that, details are not really so important because I can do this and I can do that and I'm a champion of branding and marketing and whatever. Trust me, the analytical lost you at, hey, nice meeting you. You need to be careful. So you got to be correct. You got to be accurate. You got to see the project. They want to see the project through to the end. They want to understand what's going to happen. Okay, so if I'm giving you the listing right now, what's going to happen next? Explain to them your plan of action. Go over each detail in the plan of action. Explain why you're doing everything. That's how you can win with an analytical. All right, so let's do a summary. And then I want to explain to you that the problem with this is when you meet someone who is a driver, expressive, and you are amiable, analytical, you're meeting your opposite. It's very difficult to fake excitement. The amiable and analytical, if I'm going to talk, on the extreme, then you're looking at the analytical versus the expressive. So let's look real quickly. The expressive is high on emotion. So they walk into a presentation high on emotion. If the seller is an expressive and they're high on emotion and quick to decide, high on emotion and quick to decide, and they meet with an analytical who is low on emotion and slow to decide, that's the exact opposite. The analytical is patient. The expressive is not. They want to move fast. So you can see that when you're meeting with someone who is your opposite, you're going to have some issues. The driver, you need to be careful working with the amiable, because the driver is low on emotion and quick to decide. The steady, high on emotion and slow to decide. If you're looking at the other side of the spectrum, driver and amiables are the exact opposites. If you're a driver, you need to be careful. If you're amiable, you need to be careful. Now, if a driver is, is low on emotion and quick to decide, he's going to go and meet with an influencer who is also high on emotion, also quick to decide, but high on emotion. So if the driver goes in low on emotion with someone who is high on emotion, that's a problem. So you have to start recognizing what's going on. That's why I'm telling you, knowing what you're saying at the listing presentation, like memorizing and internalizing your script, knowing exactly what's going to happen next in your script and how you're delivering your presentation is extremely important way before you need to understand versatility and personality styles, because you will never be able to deliver the message the right way and fit the message to the personality style. You won't be able to do that unless you know what you're saying ahead of time. That's why memorizing, internalizing, rehearsing, role-playing, over and over and over and over and over daily, every single day, doing that stuff so that when you are out there, you can pay attention to something else other than what should I say next. That's why your listing presentation should be a canned presentation, meaning prepared ahead of time, and it's always the same words delivered in a different way. It's the same message delivered in a different way. So the most difficult thing about becoming versatile is to really recognize quickly who your prospect is. And how can you do that? Well, when you're calling a FISBO as an example, and you know what you're saying, then you don't need to focus on what you're saying. You can actually focus on energy. You can focus on how they speak, their rate of speech, the delivery, and all that stuff. If you're meeting somebody face to face, you could probably recognize faster because you also see the body language and the smile and all that stuff. But you can also hear a smile over the phone. And you can probably pick up on a couple of different things by asking certain questions, like, for example, what do you do for a living? Or if you sense that the seller is very pushy, like aggressive style, you can probably figure out that they're not amiable. So, okay, not amiable. Now I have only 3 left. So this one over here is out. Continue to talk to the seller, ask some more questions, and suddenly you're like, okay, based on the answers, she is definitely not a driver because she's explaining too much detail. The driver is all about bottom line. So you're saying, okay, now we got driver and amiable out. So we're left with expressive and analytical. If she's up and up, speaking with energy, talking fast, you can feel the emotional side. It's definitely not an analytical. You narrow it down to an expressive. When it gets confusing, it's when the expressive is also amiable, or vice versa. You're dealing with an expressive amiable or with an amiable expressive. The difference between these two is that the expressive, if that's dominating, then they make decisions quickly. If the amiable is dominating, then they make a decision, like slower. You have to slow down. If the amiable is the one dominating the situation right now, you have to really speak in a different way. You cannot be the expressive. You need to be the amiable. So it's a little bit more complicated. Since we have 4 personality styles and we got 4 options for each one, you really have 16 personality styles. And if you Google 16 personality styles, you're going to find a website about that. I believe it's 16personalitystyles.com, if I'm not mistaken. And you can go there and read about the 16 different personality styles. And what they did was they actually took, if you take the disc and you break each one, like the D can be a driver, they can be a driver expressive, they can be a driver analytical, or they can be a driver amiable. So it can be a driver expressive, driver analytical, or driver amiable. You got 4 kinds of a driver. And then same goes for expressive. You can be expressive, or you can be expressive driver, you can be expressive amiable, you can be expressive analytical. And then there is another component that sometimes they can have all 3. Nobody has all 4. So most people, 2 of them will be dominating and you will never figure out the third. But sometimes when you give them a this test, you can see all that stuff. So first of all, figure out who you are. What's your style? What are you naturally more? Are you more of a driver? Are you more of an expressive? Are you more of an amiable, more of an analytical, depending on the situation? Okay. So if you take the this test, all right, when you Google free this test, you're going to come in here. The first one, it's always the first 123test.com. You click on it, and then you take the test. Is right there. So the only thing you got to do here is you got 4 different kinds of sentences. You have to read, okay, people look up to me. I tend to be a kind person. I accept life as it comes. People say I have a strong personality. So for myself, I would choose this one the most. And then I will choose this one as the least. And I'm going to go next. So now I need to do this one. And then you go through the entire list and you click next, and then you get your profile. And that's how it's done. Now, when you get your profile, it gives you information. And in most cases, you're going to get, like, for example, it's going to come in, okay, D is 42%. The I will be like 30%. And then the rest will be divided between C and S. Okay. What you need to be careful and watch out for is, what is your personality style? What are you not? For example, if you're a driver analytical, then you're not expressive and you're not amiable. And these are the 2 that you really need to be careful with. So watch out for that and start seeing signs from the first conversation. Things that people say, like I can have a conversation almost with anyone and I can fairly quickly decide what they are. And I'm probably like 80% right on the dot. Sometimes you're not, but in most cases you are, by asking the right questions. That's why following scripts and dialogues and memorizing them and knowing what it is you're going to say next is extremely important when you want to go to your next level with your sales career. If you don't have enough skills, if you say, I am who I am, and that's just what it is. If these kind of people that say that, they have this attitude, they tend to get very little results in sales because they are not capable of coming outside of their shell, going outside of their comfort zone, doing things that are going to make them feel comfortable in order to make someone else feel comfortable. So it's all about the other person. It's all about them. It's all about us, right? So therefore, we need to really understand what's going on. In order to bring this to a next level, I always recommend you to go and take some acting lessons, like really learn how to act as an expressive, learn how to be a driver. You cannot change your personality styles. Like it never happened, by the way, that I gave a this test and the person came in as a strong driver, expressive, and then 10 years later they come in and they do another test and suddenly they're amiable and analytical. That will never happen. They can be versatile in a situation, but you are who you are and you're going to stay that way. What you need to learn is not how to change yourself, but to be versatile. The change that needs to take place in order for you guys to be able to get a lot more business and have a lot more rapport with a lot more people is to become versatile. It is extremely important. As a matter of fact, if you look all across the board, top producers in our industry are more versatile than low producers. A lot more versatile. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're getting these results? They're getting the results because they're versatile. It's all about matching the other person. If I can match an amiable, if I can sit down and have a conversation with an amiable and be an amiable, for that period of time. I'm not an amiable, I'm the exact opposite, but can I slow myself down and move myself aside so that I can sit down with someone else and help them achieve something they need to achieve and just allow them to be and remove myself from the equation? Yes. Can I do it all across the board? Like, okay, they gave me the listing, now I need to be amiable for the rest of this relationship. No, you just need to explain to them who you really are and how you're doing things and what to expect. So if I can tell someone how to expect that I am a driver, I'm a driver, expressive, and I'm also analytical. So I'm all about the details, the bottom line, making decisions quickly, influencing others, all these different components. And I'm not about doing things slowly. So please, if we get to a point where I am, or I come across aggressive, or I come across too direct, and you feel uncomfortable, I can tell an amiable, look, if you feel uncomfortable, just let me know. The problem with that is they don't like confrontation, so they're not going to let me know. I would know because of how they behave. It's not because they told me. So they're not going to tell me because they don't like to confront. Therefore, I have to assume it. I have to figure it out. So you got to become extremely sensitive to how people speak and how they feel. Emotional intelligence would help you a lot in this game. And it is a game. If you want to get a lot of listings, look, when you work with the buyer, it doesn't really matter much because, if you know your stuff and they feel that you know your stuff, they work with you and you find them a house fairly quickly. You can find someone a house within 2 days and go under contract. You can also work with the buyer for 6 months and not find him something. But if you're doing it the right way, you will find it much quicker. Now, when you work with the seller and the seller need to give you a listing for 6 months, and they need to trust that you have what it takes to sell their home, yes, it's a little bit more complicated. It's a longer relationship term. There's more involved, more money on the table. It's just different. So you need to really know what you're doing when you want to become a listing agent. The difference between a buyer agent and a listing agent is these two positions call for a completely different set of skills. And that's what most people don't get. They think, oh, I'm a real estate agent, I can work with buyers and sellers. Yes, you can, legally, but your skills, you don't have any skills to work with a seller. That's why I'm working like a buyer agent. The majority of agents that you know out there, 80% of the agents, maybe more than 80%, probably more like 90% of the agents out there are buyer's agents. The fact that they got a listing because they sold a house to someone 5 years ago and now that person is ready to sell and they trust you and they call you to get the listing, on the market, that doesn't make you a listing agent. What makes you a listing agent is when you are capable to grab the phone, standing outside of FISBO, call them, book an appointment, do your pre-qualifying script, get a listing appointment, send out the listing package, negotiate some of it on the phone, go to the house, meet with the people, and get the listing. That calls for a completely different set of skills. And you need to develop these skills. And the most important skill, in my opinion, to become an extremely successful listing agent is to become versatile. All right, let me open up the microphone for some questions. We'll take questions now.
So, question. So on a listing presentation, do you ask any specific questions in order for you to figure out what their personality profile might be before continuing?
Every single question I ask a seller from the moment we are on the phone until the moment I go to the house, it can tell me a lot of stuff about their style. So when you're following, the scripts we're giving, if it's my scripts or Mike's Ferry scripts or Tom, whichever scripts you're using, you're asking questions. The script is all about asking questions. Every single question that you ask on the script, like for example, who is waiting for you in Florida? And they talk about that. You can tell if it was an expressive person, they will start telling you, oh, my daughter is there and I can't wait to see her. She has 2 kids and this kid went to school and the school was like this and the neighbor and that's an expressive person. An amiable or an analytical will never do that. A driver will never do that. You're asking them, for example, if what I say makes sense, and you feel comfortable and confident. If you're asking this question to a driver, it's not about feeling, so you might get a different answer. If they surprise you, if they're super direct, like asking you like direct questions, if you're not strong enough with a driver, they'll hang up on you. They'll have less patience over the phone. And amiable on the other hand is going to sit there on the phone and listen to you and give you the time because they don't want to, make you feel uncomfortable. The driver doesn't give a shit about how you feel. So you see, from the moment you're making a phone call until you actually go to do your presentation, there's a lot of stuff. If you're getting a phone call, say that you're doing farming and you send out postcards and one of them is calling you. Hi, Elvis, this is Mary Smith. I just got your postcard and we're actually thinking about selling and we're thinking about, we would like to get a CMA. And you're like taking that phone call right into, okay, so let me prepare one for you. And you ask a couple of questions. You're not jumping back on a script like you should be. Then, you might miss a lot of details. That's what's, the scripts are all about, designing conversations ahead of time to prepare you to figure out who they are, what personality style they have, and then go in with that, style in mind, being ready to present to an amiable. For example, if I'm a driver expressive and I'm going to a house of an amiable, I gotta be very careful. Like, I need to really slow myself down forcefully. How would I know that they're amiable? Well, I'm asking questions over the phone and I can hear quiet and I can hear them speaking very slowly and very low volume, and they're very accommodating and very nice and very polite. That's not a driver. A driver is not polite and is not quiet. So to answer your question, every single question you ask can tell you their personality style if you really listen. You need to listen not just to what they're saying, which is important for you to write down. And by the way, every time I'm calling people, I always have these two things in front of me. I always write down what they're saying because I'm not always listening to what they're saying. I hear what they say. I write it down, but I'm not listening to it because I'm trying to listen to the style. Now, if I need to repeat what they just said, I will. It's automatic. Like, where are you going to move next? And they say Florida. Okay, that's great. So who's waiting for you in Florida? And I wrote down Florida on my piece of paper, but I'm trying to listen to the details. Is she giving me a lot of details or a little bit of details? If she gives me very little details and very quickly and very like boom, 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 like that, it's a driver. If she tells me it's none of your business, that can be a driver or analytical. Amiable will never tell me it's none of your business. Ever. Amiables will never speak like that. They will never say it's none of your business. That's more of a driver analytical. Expressives, we're not going to say that they might, come out of it in a nice way. They will be up and up with the energy. They'll be busy, stuff like that, but they're not going to be like rude. So if a person is rude on the phone, driver or analytical, in like 90% of chances. Right from the get-go, from the first conversation you're having with someone, you need to start paying attention. Therefore, always write down what's going on. Repeat what they say so they know you're with them, you're not listening to them. But at the same time, you're trying to pick up some signs about their style. Okay, more questions.
Being an amiable, how can you speed up to, for example, dealing with a driver, which is completely opposite from me?
So hard.
Yeah, I know.
If you're amiable, first of all, you're amiable, but you can also come across as influential, like expressive. And I don't think that you're very low on the eye with the test. Are you?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Okay. What you need to pay attention to is that drivers don't care about how you feel. Therefore, They don't care about feelings, period. It's not about how it feels. It's about the bottom line. What's the bottom line in this conversation? What are you trying to achieve? What is your agenda? Get to the point. These are the kind of things you need to pay attention to. So when an amiable talks to a driver, always remember, they don't care about schmoozing. They will walk all over you if they feel that you are, super sensitive and weak. For them, sensitivity is weakness. And that is another thing that you need to pay attention to. Drivers believe that sensitivity is weakness. And therefore, they will behave in such a way. They will think that you are weak. So you don't want to come across as, as an amiable when you speak with a driver. What should you do? Look, amiable is more similar to an expressive than an amiable would be similar to a driver. Okay? Expressives make decisions faster. Expressives and drivers are similar in making decisions fast. That's what is in common to these two. So it's better for you to go into your expressive side and present from that point. Now, if you're amiable analytical and you need to go, in front of an expressive or a driver, then you're having some problems. So what you want to do is you want to become more of the analytical versus the amiable. Like cancel the amiable if you can, which means no emotions. It has to be details and bottom line details, not too much information, just the bottom line. So what should you do? You should stick to your script. Like, I'll give you the bottom line here. What do you do with a driver? Just stay on script. Don't do anything outside of your script. Stay on script and move quickly. That's with a driver. Now, if you're working with an expressive, then you need to do other things because the expressive like for you to be up and up with your energy, and amiables are more like, kind of down and different. So it really depends. You're asking about the driver. The driver, you got to stay on script. You got to kind of hide your emotions and force yourself to be stronger on delivery. So don't be scared to confront, because they want to know they prefer knowing how you feel than not knowing how you feel. They're not going to, guess. You're not going to be like, what? Can't they feel them? No, they can't. So I'm telling you, and you're probably sensing already, it's not easy. And in order to make it easier, you got to really memorize, internalize, and know all your scripts ahead of time so that you can just stay on script and not go anywhere else. Just stay on script, which is really bottom line.